You're listening to Dramas Over Flowers. This is an episode of The Long Yak with Saya, Eunice, and Boromir. Hi, I'm Saya. In this episode, we'll be looking back at our month of dramas new and old. Join us as we discuss the good, the bad, and the appallingly mediocre. This podcast is a project by fans for fans. If you want to be a part of making that dream grow, there are a whole load of ways to help. You can share our episodes on fan sites and social media, you can talk about the podcast to your drama-loving friends, or you can leave a review on iTunes or whichever app or platform you use to listen to us. And if you want to help us keep our lights on, you can check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/dramasoverflowers. Finally, you can get in touch with us with your thoughts and ideas. We're always reading the comments on YouTube and Drama Beans, but you can also tweet at us at dramasoverflow or email us at dramasoverflowers@gmail.com. And that's it from me. Belt up and enjoy the episode. It's called The Long Yak for a reason. Hi everyone, this is Saya.
This is Anissa.
And this is Parma.
How's everyone doing?
Same old.
The lockdown continues, although we're supposed to be opening up. Our state is slowly opening some things.
My country has become number one for deaths in Europe. Europe. So that's like,
We're still number one in the world, so...
Yeah, but we're number two behind you, so, you know,
gosh.
Getting
and
there.
My state has become the number one in the number of rising cases in this country. So, you know, we're all number ones in our own way.
It's like the worst thing to be first in. Oh my god.
It's like the disaster Olympics. It's not funny. It's not funny at all.
I think now we've gotten to the point where it's like all like gallows humor, where you're like trying to cope with the anxiety by just like making really dark jokes.
Yeah, basically.
We are being kind of facetious, but you know, we hope that everybody is okay, and it's a strange time. Everybody's trying to cope in their own ways.
It's weird. It feels like there's no dramas on right now, like after everything's finished.
There are stuff, but not stuff that we are really into.
Yeah, that's fair actually.
A couple of my friends mentioned extracurricular to me, but I don't know. I watched the trailer and I just wasn't feeling it. So
I realized, like, because with all of the stuff that I did actually watch in the last month, they were very easy to watch, and then once it got to the stuff that I wanted to watch, but they like required some brain engagement, then it was much harder to press play. But like, I also don't want to watch the stuff that's too lightweight because I'm not that interested in it, even if it's easy to watch. So it's an endless conundrum.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like sometimes I do feel like in times of anxiety and stress, it's really hard to watch the things that not even things that are dark, but just things that require a lot of brain power.
Brain
time. Like fantasy where there's a lot of world building and I have to like learn all the rules of the world and get like invested in it. When I'm under a lot of pressure or anxiety, I just don't have time for that. So then I gravitate towards like the rom-coms because it's such a standard formula that like it's like comfort food. And so I kind of just enjoy that when I'm feeling, you know, a lot of other mental complicated feelings. So right now I actually don't feel like watching anything that complex. But then it does at a certain point you want something like a little bit more substantial. I don't know.
But then it's hard to press play.
Yeah.
When you get to it.
Yeah, like I've been thinking that I should start 365 for like 3 weeks. And I just started it last night. So, because I knew it was going to be like a little bit more involved and like I would have to use my brain a little bit.
Although in its defense, you can watch it without your brain. You'll just miss things. It's more fun to watch with your brain.
Yeah.
But then it's harder to press play.
Exactly.
The eternal
First world problems, clearly. I'm sorry. This is like such a weird...
It really is actually embarrassing how shamefully first world problem it is.
Yeah. Which is why I find it hard to indulge in the social media whining that we like the plural we people of our age group indulge in a lot during this time. Woe is me. I'm stuck at home watching Netflix all day. I'm just, how do you do that, man? I mean,
Yeah, we are so much better off than so many people who are going through so much right now. So, I mean, it's one thing to like have like little daily complaints or sort of just going through what you're going through, but then like there is a certain like strain of people who like make a spectacle out of their non-suffering that I'm just like, no.
I feel like it is okay to have a little wail sometimes, but I feel like that wail needs to be followed by the immediate recognition that you are so much more privileged than so many other people. Like, yes, I feel like so and so is a problem. Yeah, but also perhaps maybe because we're all directly connected to people who are having it worse, so it's easier for us to see that. Whereas for a lot of people, they can be very disconnected from people who are less privileged than them, whether that's in their own communities or in other countries or anything like that.
Yeah, but it kind of makes me despair for
humanity.
Not humanity, but like our the intelligence of humans, I suppose. I mean, that this is something that's afflicting the whole world. The whole world.
I do wonder if people really know that sometimes. I still get people calling up my business line saying, "Why aren't you open?" You're like, "Do you know what's happening right now?"
Oh, man.
And they're like, "I don't know, I'm standing in the middle of this high street and all the shops are closed." And you're like, "I know you have a TV. And I'm sure if you don't have a TV, then you at least have a radio. Or somebody has told you that there is a pandemic and
you definitely
lots of people
have
are
a
dying."
phone because you're calling me right now.
A landline, most likely, though.
Oh, okay.
But, it's... But also, at the same time, I feel like there are some people who are kind of... I mean, maybe a bit sort of older, sort of uncle types who aren't too... They're just like, what's another illness, So they're not that bothered.
No, the number of times I've heard from that generation that we have seen pandemics. No, you haven't seen pandemics. Sit down.
Although, wasn't there, apart from the 1918 one, wasn't there another flu one in the 50s? Not perhaps as big.
Which country? I don't think it was a worldwide thing. What we've had in my country are famines, which, of course, while widespread, the middle classes didn't really suffer that badly. So, I mean, nobody of my acquaintance gets to say that we have seen great suffering. No, you haven't.
Maybe they mean they've seen war, like, independence,
sure,
partition.
But again, I mean, I don't know. They were like babies when the wars happened. They were toddlers. Anyway, on to cheerier subjects.
Is it though? Because the first thing we're talking about is kind of making me... I'm going to be a little grumpy about it, I'm going to be honest.
The king? Okay.
Go on, take it away.
Like, with the grumpiness, or should I take it away? Like, who's taking it away?
Both of you.
Should I?
I'll come in at the end with my non-grumpiness.
I only watched the first 2 episodes, and I told myself that I was probably going to go back, and I never went back. So, I guess my main issue with this is that Himeno he seems bored. And it's a shame because clearly, like, they spent a ton of money on this. The rest of the cast is amazing. They're really doing a good job. Everyone's really invested. And he just looks like he's a dead-eyed zombie with no investment in this. And he's just there to, like, wear his pretty clothes and look nice and walk around and be admired by, like, literally every person in the story who's like, who is that? He's so handsome.
And the background murmuring. Yeah, the background murmuring of he's so handsome.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, they were not pretty clothes. I have seen the clothes. And
yeah, I mean, what air quotes, pretty clothes. He's I mean, he's like a model, so he just makes everything look good, but nobody normal could wear those clothes. He's wearing this jacket
that doesn't even look like it's been finished. It's like it's got random tacking stitches, and they're not even like in a pattern. Like, they're just random. It just looks like he stole it from a tailor's work table. And it, like, drove me to Twitter to be like, is this fashion?
Maybe it's
It was
haute
wild.
couture.
It was just
I've never
no, man.
understood haute couture anyway.
It's I think the whole philosophy behind that is like emperor's new clothes type of thinking. We'll just tell them
You
this is fashion
guys-
and they'll agree.
Yeah.
You guys have no soul, okay? That kind of design always has such a sad story behind it. Have you not watched any of the fashion shows that Netflix provides you to watch? Have you ever seen a designer come up with something without like some sad ass story about how this tragic couple in this rural neighborhood they used to live in died or something, and that inspired them to make this particular...
I can't say that I've ever watched that kind of show, but you're making me intrigued, actually.
No, you know the one with Tan Fran's in it.
Queer Eye.
He come up with... No, he's in a. They're doing a fashion one now. I mean, the Queer Eye one was also a fashion one, but I mean, him and another
Project Runway?
co-host. Something very similar to Project Runway.
Oh, okay.
But it's new and it's on Netflix, and I watched a few episodes and I was bored out of my mind. I don't think that's
Yeah,
going to be
I don't
renewed.
understand why
but-
you would even click play on that.
Because it's Stan France and he's kind of funny.
Oh,
but
fair.
nah.
Sorry,
man.
I missed that whole genre of reality TV, so...
I did enjoy Project Runway though. I remember I was on a trip and I didn't have internet, but the TV was working, so I just watched a few episodes of Project Runway.
I actually had this period when I was finishing my undergrad. I just finished my undergrad, and daytime TV, and it was America's Next Top Model, and I think I watched season 4 or something. I was like, right, this is good. Fashion is hard. Being a model is tough. And then I was like, yeah, I can't actually devote my life to watching this. This is it's too much of a black hole. It sucks you in.
I agree. Like similar struggles can be seen in so many professions that just I don't know. Not I mean, awesome professions these, but just not. I have to say though, why do you always have to come up with these ridiculous, sad stories to defend your weird ass designs? Can't you
Because
just say
that's
I like
reality
weird
TV?
patterns and I slap them together and this is the result? Just
And I just
do
thought
with it
I'd
what you
see
will.
how many people I could get to look at that and say, wow, that's like so amazing.
No,
Well, because
the
literally
producers
you're
want
happening
drama.
inside.
They want tears. They want pain.
They do clearly,
They
because
want
there was
cat
this
fights.
one instance where they had a guest judge come in who really didn't like this particular design, and then he was made to stand while the designers explained the story behind it, and then he was suddenly like, yeah, I understand this is totally the best design here. What? You said he was giving legitimate critiques about why he didn't think it was good design, and suddenly he was like, no, I mean, now that you've told me that this is the story behind this design, I am fully convinced this is the best design. What?
So this is like those terrible K-drama heroes that are like total trash, but then you're supposed to care about them because they have like some secret pain in their heart that made them turn out horrible.
Okay, if that was
Still
supposed to be a
trash.
segue, that's excellent, because otherwise it made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, that was my plan.
So you
like,
guys
back
didn't
to
like
K-drama
it.
hero.
Back to the king. My other issue with this, I mean, I haven't watched enough to really judge the fantasy aspect. It looks a little confusing, but what?
He's handsome.
And he's like constantly trailed by these whispers of how handsome he is, and you're like, he's not that handsome actually.
Whatever room he goes into, there's somebody in the background going, he's handsome.
See, the reason that bothers me is like it would bother me with any hero, with any actor, but like especially with Imino, like he's not bad looking,
That handsome.
but he's not one
Yeah,
of those
he's not that-
actors where you
exactly.
just look at him and are like, oh my god, how are you human? Where like there are definitely actors like that where you're just
yeah,
like,
he's not Yu Sung-ho, for instance.
exactly,
I mean,
or like
come on.
Song Joong-gi or
Thank you
somebody
for that.
who's you know, like unearthly looking in a
Yeah.
really impressive way. He's just has a pointy nose, and he's tall.
Imino is one of those actors I always described as having an ajushi face, And Isengi is also one of them. And like Isengi has finally just grown into his face, I feel. Like in Vagabond, he has grown into that face. But that was not a handsome face, like in the way that I would think of.
But the thing is, with Isengi has a charisma that it doesn't really matter so much how he looks, because he's such a good actor and he's so charismatic that I didn't really care. But Imino has his his only claim to fame is that he's good looking and he was in Boys Over Flowers. That launched his career.
Yeah, I mean, it's annoying because you're like, he's not even that good looking.
And he's not, but I think he fits this particular Korean beauty standard, so maybe that's just a cultural difference.
Are we agreed that Lee Min-ho has basically decided that the only characters he's ever going to play are rich, entitled brats, because he knows that that's like the only character he can ever play?
I feel like Kim Un-suk has just reinvented Kim Tan for like whatever his name is here.
And this is related to my other point, which I've been trying to make for like 15 minutes, which is...
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was derailed by the whispers. My point that I wanted to make, which is my last point, and then you guys can take it, is that I'm really getting tired of Kim Un-suk having to, like, it's like a pathological need at this point for her to always give her male leads. They're either they're supernaturally powerful, or they're so rich that it might as well be a superpower. And then they're always in like some position of so much power that like everybody else in the drama is just at a total loss in comparison to them, especially and including the heroine. And she gives them that setup. I feel like she gives them that setup, especially and particularly so that they can be jerks. And then you have to be like, oh, well, I mean, in anybody else that would be terrible, but be like, I understand why he turned out that way. Like, oh, of course he's a prince that nobody ever says no to, so of course he turned out that way. Like, no. I don't want to see that character anymore. I'm done. Why is this person going around like saying, oh, if you were in my kingdom, I would behead you. Haha. Like, what? Is that supposed to be funny?
I don't find the beheading jokes funny ever, like, in any way. They're not... One, his delivery doesn't work. You could make that delivery funny. Imagine Gongyu doing that. That could be funny.
Exactly.
I would be laughing my head off if Lee Dong-wook was doing that.
But he doesn't have the comic timing or the charisma or the acting skills or even, like, the awakeness or the interest.
Imino's repertoire covers a very narrow sort of space, which is like he has a quiet monotone, which is that's all he's got. Like when he deviates from that, that's when like if his character is required to deviate from that, then it stops working. Whereas if you just need him to be sort of silent and strong and brooding, like appearance-wise, he does really well. And like the kind of like he can pass that off as kingly gravitas. So I feel it actually works with his character in this show. But like for example, the reason why he just didn't work in that mermaid show. What was it called again?
Legend of the Blue
Sea.
Oh
yeah, that one. And he was really like lacking in that. He just like you say, no charisma, no comic timing. But he does have a certain amount of capability. Like I don't want to say completely that he is totally incompetent. It's very narrow what he can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true. But he also doesn't seem to be trying that hard in this.
But why should he?
Maybe this is him trying.
They basically just handed him. They've basically just handed him the easiest character, the one character he can absolutely sleepwalk through. There's absolutely no effort going into his performance. And I'm not, again, as Sarah said, it's not like he's not capable. Of course, there is a certain amount of capability that comes with, he wouldn't have this opportunity right after he came back from his stint in the army if he didn't have a certain amount of capability. But
though I would dispute that. People get jobs with no what do you call it, ability. That just is a sad reality of the industry.
True, but I mean, it's not like his last drama before he went off to army was such a huge success, you know?
It's because he was rubbish. It could have been,
agreed.
But also it was written badly, so that's another thing.
Yeah. No, so what I was trying to say was that it's not like, I should clarify, the first two episodes are trash as far as understanding Egon's character is concerned, or just anything about the world, because the only thing interesting about this premise at this point is the fact that there is an alternate world. You want to know more about this alternate world, but all you get is Egon coming to our world and discovering normal things and not even reacting to it. So there is no sense of wonder, there is no sense of discovery, the humor doesn't land. It's very except for this, I think it was in the second week that you had that moment, that frozen moment in the park where you have Theol kind of like freezing while she's trying to tie up her hair, and he's kind of gazing at her and she looks like some kind of a carved statue,
and he's not surprised enough.
Beautiful.
And you're like, you should be a bit more surprised
enough. But what I did appreciate, because of the cinematography of the moment and the way it was set up, Theo looked so damn mesmerizing, and he looked mesmerized. But then I can't tell if that's just his blank face or if he was actually slack-faced with surprise. I mean, it's real hard to tell. But before that, it was just, why am I even watching this? However, then you had that moment when Theo came to the alternate Korea, and I do think things picked up.
I haven't watched this far yet.
You haven't?
No,
oh my
no
God,
spoil.
what?
Silence. I've only watched up to episode 3. Okay, it's not a huge spoiler, but like I want this to be fresh.
I'm not gonna spoil anything major for you guys, but you guys do know that Theo obviously comes to Egon's world. It's like a foregone.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a certain point.
Suffice to say that once that happens, his straight-faced I am the king persona actually starts feeling a bit more enjoyable, because he's doing it in home ground and being sort of like being treated like the king, but like it's supported by the people around him. Like his lack of reaction to anything feels slightly more palatable in this situation, as you find out more about his world and what he knows about the magic that is, which, by the way, the magic is such trash, man.
No, don't say it.
I know. It's not like I know much more than you do. They haven't actually explained much about the magic.
Okay.
Whatever the Dragon King and the flute are doing, look, don't do this. Either say this thing is magic or say this thing is science. Don't say this thing is magic. I can totally explain it by science, but you're too stupid to understand that science.
Great.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
You're so dedicated to making your hero seem smart that you're making your audience feel like an idiot. Don't do that. Your hero doesn't look smart. The writing just seems crap.
I'm sad now because I feel like this is going to ruin my enjoyment of the next episode. You know, sometimes you get to a point with shows where you just need to not listen to any of the commentary, which I had with Airs actually, which I did enjoy. And I'm not ashamed.
Airs was so bad.
I potentially would be ashamed now, but back then I was not ashamed. But
no,
I had to stop.
I did watch Air live.
I had to stop reading comments and recaps and things because it was like, you know, these people hate it and I don't. So I'm just going to carry on enjoying it by myself.
No, you won't be by yourself, Sai. I'm totally watching this. I'm telling you, I started enjoying it way more once Theo came into Egon's world. Things actually picked up. The mystery picked up. Characters started becoming a little more interesting. They gained dimensions. So I'm all in.
I actually find everyone in like the so-called normal world, I think they're all interesting. I just have no interest in Egon. Like Tail is interesting. I like her like police partner. I love that actor, by the way.
Yeah, like you feel like
the one who plays her partner.
Kim Kyung-nam, I think.
Yeah, Kim Kyung-nam. He was like the only good thing about Fox Bride Star.
Why are you guys not reacting to the fact that my puppy's climbing into my lap? Why?
I'm just enjoying the sight. Oh, but now it's taken her away.
Clearly we had a lot of feelings about Lee Min-ho's performance, but let's actually talk more about the show. So, Saya.
Saya, who didn't actually hate it and is actually really enjoying it. And also is not hating Imino, because after like I read your weekend drama reports on him, and I thought, and we had that conversation, that text conversation about what a charisma black hole he was and stuff. And so I was like, oh no, how bad is this going to be? And then I started watching. And I was like, actually, I'm really enjoying this. And like I say, that his acting repertoire works for this character, and I find the plot quite interesting. And because we watched the first episode together, which I think added to how confusing it was, because it was.
Yeah, I had to rewatch the first episode.
And I didn't rewatch it. I was like, oh, this is too hard. Pressing play is hard. So I was like, no. But when I picked it up again from episode 2, it actually got really interesting. And like all of the characters and their backstories, and like I like the interaction between. Like, you're sitting there, like, doing a spot the difference between the worlds, and you're like, oh, this character and that character, and, like, trying to correspond them and how they're related. And I find that really fun.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it relied quite heavily on, like, goblin callbacks, which I didn't feel was necessary, but I can see why you would do it, but I think it's excessive. Like, you can do it once or twice, and it's like, okay, I enjoyed that.
And it suffers by the comparison.
Yeah, exactly. And you keep doing it, and that sort of, it takes away from its own impact. And then, like, do you remember that one scene in Goblin that they kept doing flashbacks to of Kim Gun when she's with Gong Yu, and she, like, you know, when she's got her head tipped back and she's smiling and her chest is puffed out and she looks like this, like, anime schoolgirl.
Yeah.
I don't know if is this the same director as Goblin? I didn't check, but like, why do they do that? I feel like it, and because is Kim Gon that tiny? Is my first question, and secondly, if she is that tiny, then rather than tipping her head back that far, perhaps she should just move a step further back, like 6 inches. That's all it would take for her to not look like a tiny schoolgirl. I just really dislike that as a visual. And
I think both with Gong Yu and with Lee Min Ho, they were trying to show the height difference with her.
Yeah, but like,
because they are both very tall men.
The height difference seems to stand in for, like, with Gong Yu, it seemed to stand in for an age difference, and with this, it just seems to stand in for a power difference, and I don't like it for that reason. But actually, I'm enjoying it, and also the whole Alice in Wonderland thing. I just find it so. I find that such a boring reference material, and so many dramas use it, and you just need to move on from Alice in Wonderland. I hate it.
Please
stop. I mean, I don't like it as a material, like an independent material in general. I'm just not into Alice in Wonderland, but it's like, it's so overused. There are other books.
No, but it's not just that, Saya. It's they are using Alice in Wonderland metaphors with no context for no
right.
reason.
It doesn't
it's
make
like
any sense.
Like, what? Let's just use a metaphor, a fairy tale. What fairy tale? Yeah, just plopping it up where it doesn't fit at all. It's not an analogy for anything.
It's just random. It's very random, and you're like, but why?
It's very random. It's like, why is his white horse called Maximus? It's just a random reference to a Disney movie. Like, why?
No, so Egon really likes his fairy tales. His father used to tell him fairy tales, right? So, is that a spoiler?
That's true, but do they have Tangled in the alternate universe? Like, what?
They must
They probably
have.
do.
I'm sure Disney would exist in every universe.
This is probably true. But yeah, no, I agree about the Alice in Wonderland thing. But it's not the same director, by the way, as Goblin. Different director.
Okay.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, right, yeah.
But it's the same writer who loves creepy differences between her female and male leads. Okay, I'll stop.
Does she have a co-writer on this one? I didn't check that, because usually she does better when she has co-writers. So. Oh, okay. Well, I'm still gonna watch it.
I'm a little worried about how she's gonna wrap up this particular drama. I mean, I know it's probably a little too early to worry about it right now, but I really didn't like Goblin's ending. And if this is going to have a sort of a tragicomedy ending, I'm gonna stop watching her stuff.
To be honest, like, she worked on Goblin for many years, and I think that showed in the fact that at least for the first 80% of the show, like, it actually made quite a bit of sense, and it was, you know, like, it seemed well planned and well thought out.
It was really well fleshed out.
It was really well done. This one, I feel like she was just like, oh, well, my last supernatural drama was so good. Let's just throw, like, time travel and alternate universes and all kinds of, like, magical flutes and just, like, throw in everything with the kitchen sink and, like, let's go.
It is thrown together, like, quite a few disparate concepts, which I'm not sure. I mean, I'm okay with it as long as they will eventually sort of explain or bring it together in a way that makes sense. Like, I feel like we're still in the stage where things are allowed to not make complete sense.
That's fine, but I think they've already shown a few laps in logic, which I don't want to get into because they would be a bit spoilery. But I
But
am
we will
already
next month.
writing. We will next month. That is going to be a spoilery review of The King, guys.
It's also a good place to remind our listeners that we are still doing the weekend drama reports, which is our weekly written bloggy takes,
where we do spoil somewhat, not a lot, no major spoilers, but we rant, and that means some spoilers.
So if the wait gets too arduous between yaks, don't forget that you can go and check out our blog on what is it, at dramasoverflowers.net.
Yep.
There, didn't I do that smoothly?
So amongst all the characters, there's just one character that I'm watching a bit anxiously right now, which is obviously Prime Minister Ku, because the Prime
I don't
Minister.
know, but the pretty lady.
The pretty lady, which they have emphasized so much. This is something I don't understand about this drama.
She is gorgeous. Have you seen that jawline?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But like, on the one hand, they keep emphasizing that she is very feminine and very into her looks and very careful about how she dresses and the makeup she puts on. And then she has her ministers being sexist about, you pretty young thing, you don't know how countries work, and her being all, I mean...
But she's also proven that she's highly politically competent, which I think...
It's not that. The thing is, you can be somebody who's highly efficient, very much into makeup, without that being part of your set design. Even her office doesn't look like something that a predecessor has enjoyed. Her office looks like her personal study, which she has prettified. Do you know, like, your set design says a lot, but her set design doesn't look lived in.
I mean, I honestly find her the least believable character in this entire cast, which is saying a lot.
But I enjoy looking at her, so I don't mind.
No, so watch a little more. I like that she has dimensions, but the problem is that I think she's being cast... This is really tiresome, but I think she's being cast a bit into that, petty second lead, female second lead role. Where the main lead doesn't want her, so she's petty and backbiting and all of that. But on the other hand, she's also this very effective prime minister of a country. It's like the drama is setting her up for both characters, which is fine. I want her to be nuanced, but they are focusing way too much on her petty evilness. What I don't like is that they are pitting the monarch against the democratic elected leader, and the monarch is the more sensible one, the one who cares more about the country, whereas the prime minister is the petty one who just wants power, and she is angling to show herself in the best way, but she doesn't actually care as much about the people.
Oh yeah, when you put it that way, that's definitely...
That's how it's coming off to me, and I'm really not enjoying that. That way more than the romance and all of that stuff is bothering me a lot. Not because I'm such a huge flag bearer of democracy. I guess I am, but that's not it. I'm just it's kind of hitting me on my my feminist beliefs, as well as my... It's a bunch of things, and it's all squashed into this one character. So I'm really wary about what they do with her. I really hope they don't turn her into an instrument of villainy, which I'm kind of afraid that they are gonna do at some point.
Because then what does that say about the message of your drama if, like, the prince who did nothing to get into his position except be born is, like, a better ruler than the prime minister?
He's already
that was democratically elected.
I mean, dude is he's a genius, he's charismatic, and because she's a woman and the monarch is a man, she's angling to be his girlfriend. I mean...
Yeah, I really dislike that angle.
Is this really written by a woman?
I just want to add a perspective to that. Being a person who lives in a constitutional monarchy type of situation, I remember someone telling me about someone who was what do you call them again? The hereditary peers. Hereditary peers, which are like, you know, lords and stuff, like titled people who, yet they did nothing to earn their roles but be born into them. However, those are people who were brought up from like day dot to take the responsibilities of their peerage seriously. And there's something to be said for that. For example, if you look at Queen Elizabeth, who, you know, I'm no royalist, but again, someone who was brought up from, like, again, the day she was born to live to think a certain way, and like to do her duties and responsibilities. And I feel like you can make that same argument for like Egon, which is that he was brought up from the first moment to be a king. And that doesn't happen by accident. You know, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this can go very badly wrong. You do get despotic monarchs and all of that. But also it can go right. You know, we've had benevolent kings and things like that. So it's I don't find it entirely unbelievable. I haven't got this far yet in the drama, but I always think of that, which a friend of mine told me because of this perspective that she had gained from someone who was a member of the peerage, a hereditary peer, and like from her years of interaction with this person who was a supervisor of hers, that she came back with that insight from it, and I just found that really, like, it stayed with me for like the 20 years since I've heard it.
I've heard this argument before, and I have full sympathy for it. I do see it, and it is kind of one of those things where, listen, I read Regency romances. You don't think that I have like a mild crush on this whole nobility thing? I mean, come on, totally. But and I it's not like I don't understand how a character like Egon would have been brought up, and why he would, like, his every particle of his being would have been like duty first, nation first. I understand that. That's not the issue. The issue is when your script is sort of like pitching the democratic head against the what's a monarch? A monarch would a monarch be a constitutional head?
An unelected head of state.
But yeah, I guess, like, against the monarch, and you're consistently showing the democratic elected head as someone who's petty and manipulative and takes advantage of her power, and whereas the monarch is like this glowy.
Without the comparison, that prime minister is probably very reflective of many prime ministers, as is more evident now than ever it's been.
Which monarch is Egon reflective of, Saya?
No, not the monarch, the prime minister. I'm saying take away the comparison and just the description of the prime minister.
But the problem is that the prime minister they're not existing. She doesn't exist without the monarch. So it does, the show is saying something.
So that is all I had to, that's all the quibble I had with The King. Sai and I are both watching it, and we'll update you next month on what's been going on. And hopefully, hey, Anisa, are you going to give this a chance at all?
If you guys are enjoying it, like at the midpoint, I might come back. Because I did like a lot of the other things. Although I do have the same issues with any drama where the lead character is a monarch. So, we'll see.
So, what's next, Saya?
When the Weather is Fine, which just wrapped, was it last week? Finished last week?
I think so, the week before, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've lost track of time. I'm going to let you guys take this first, because I feel like I've written a lot about this. And then I'll chip in the middle.
She has, and it was an excellent review, and you guys should really go to dramasoverflowers.net to read our last weekend drama report.
I think we should specify that it's the first weekend drama report of May, because by the time this comes out, it's not going to be our last one.
That's true. It's the first drama report of May.
The one with Yusugo in the header, there you go.
Yeah, that was the Saya one.
That was the one where I took it over.
Yeah, I mean, I did also write about this the week that it finished in the weekend drama report. Basically, so my overall feelings about this drama are I don't love it. By the time it ended, I didn't love it as much as I loved it when I was halfway through, which sadly tends to happen a lot. I mean, it was still a very beautifully shot, warm, lovely drama with nice dialogue that had a great cast and lots of interesting and cute and lovable characters. But I was not on board with the way that they ended any of the main arcs for the main characters. So I have a lot of questions. Okay, I'm just going to tell you my questions.
Are we required to give answers?
No, this is a list of questions because I have so many. So, why did she break up with him? Oh, by the way, spoilers for the ending, because I don't think I can talk about this without spoilers for, the last 2 weeks. So, I don't understand why she suddenly just... So, after saying, is this love? Yes, this is love. Okay, it's love. Okay, actually, then she just, breaks up with him and leaves. Why? And then, after she unburied her phone from under that tree, which, okay, why didn't she give him her phone number? They have phones. They don't live in Joseon times. They could have still kept in touch. I don't understand that.
Also, I swear, I thought she had thrown her phone away.
Yeah, we suddenly just find out that she buried it, in the place where her parents met, which is, weirdly morbid, too. I don't know. And then, how are we supposed to believe in their future when, she comes back and he's like, are you gonna leave me again? And she doesn't answer him, and then they're just are smiling at each other in the yard and pretending everything's okay.
That was the creepiest smile ever. Yeah. What was that? He's looking so heartbroken and just disconsolate, and he's like, how long are you going to stay? When are you leaving? And she turns around and just gives him this wide smile.
I'm so disturbed.
I mean, that was almost vampiric.
So disturbed by that ending, because it's what is the drama saying to you? What are they telling you about? What?
They are telling you that no good thing can last, and Yoon-sup should never have any hopes in his life, and everybody will always leave him, just like he always feared.
Yeah, but that's awful. And I genuinely had pretty Noona flashbacks to this, because it felt like that. It's you just came all of this way. You went on this entire developmental journey, and now we are here, and it is all what guarantee do we have? What's the promise of a good future?
No, there isn't any, because you have the... Yeah, I also have a lot of sympathy for the pretty Noona flashbacks, because I started feeling this, uncomfortable, frustrated feeling around the halfway point when, all the important conversations were happening inside people's heads, and nobody was talking to each other, and I was like, okay, I get that you're an introvert, but, there's being an introvert, and there's just, being a non-functional communicator.
But even when they did talk to each other, the things that they were agreeing to, what was Unsup agreeing to in that relationship? Why is it okay for her to just leave him? Why is it okay for her to come and go? Why does she get to come back and just she doesn't have to apologize, she doesn't have to explain, she doesn't have to there's why did she suddenly become God in this universe? And I really disliked it. The more I think about it, the more I dislike it.
And it's not only in her relationship to Unsub, it's also in her relationship to her aunt and her mother. Because, she never really... we don't really ever find out, did she ever finish reading her aunt's book? Her aunt publishes the book, so she must have, seen it. She must have read it. There's no acknowledgement of, the rest of the story that, the audience knows about what happened and how, her father was trying to kill both of them. And it was all,
and her reaction to that news was, there were times when I didn't like my dad too, but he was still my dad. What?
In what universe does any of her reactions to that make any sense? At least, okay, initially she's shocked and devastated and all of that, but they never address any of those issues. They never address Myungyo's whole guilt and her punishing herself, and it's oh well, she was right to punish herself all those years because she did murder him. What?
And in the end, Haewon punishes her too because she's banished, she's exiled. They make it look like it's her decision, but it's not her decision. She's she can see that's her reaction to Haewon's reaction, which is, if Haewon is blaming her for it, which she is, which, okay, I can understand you would do that, but there's a process. You don't you don't get stuck on blame. You have to then move on and accept what the actual reality
Right.
was. And she never had that
There was no process. No.
Exactly. Ugh.
I do have an insert here though. I don't think the aunt's leaving was the worst ending, because throughout the story it was very clear that the aunt felt trapped in this town. It was never her plan to come and live here for years. She had plans to go out into the world and explore. She had these ambitions that never got fulfilled because she gave everything up and just settled in here. And that's it. She even gave up writing. Her leaving, to me at least, felt like a choice she made. I mean, her being so adamant about never coming back was just weird. But the leaving of it was, I think, felt more like, I'm just going to go out into the world, see everything that I've not seen all of these years, and this place was my prison, so I won't come back.
But again, like, she didn't actually say any of that stuff. I just have to infer it, you know, like,
yeah, like you're left to make that interpretation by yourself.
Yeah,
which
I didn't have a problem with her leaving, but like, we don't know why she's leaving. Is she going to turn herself in? Is she going to live a happy life with her ulbo? Like,
oh, and I got the impression that she was leaving him too, like, and that's why he started crying again.
She is leaving him because, as the editor told the reporter, that Chakanim is not with him. They are not dating.
But she's basically saying she's disappearing.
Yeah,
and like that's what she is like. That's her way of continuing to punish herself.
I think what was really the nail in the coffin for me with this drama was like that ending. Was it a voiceover, or was just like a text from the writer or the directors or whatever? It was like framed as though it was from the production team, right? Like that little stuff, the little statements at the end about everybody's doing their best and the main thing is just to be next to somebody. So like, what? It's okay as long as you exist. Like, you don't have to tell them anything. You don't have to make any commitments. You don't have to like be there for that. You just have to exist, doing your best.
I have to admit, I kind of switched off before that part. I did not have the patience to sit through any. I mean, I just logged off.
It was such BS. Anyway, that's all that I have to say. Oh, and Jungwoo and Inshil are adorable.
To cut into the good part with another bad part, I really disliked how Hui's storyline ended. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, I'm incoherent at this point. I feel like you had such a great drama, and you just ruined it all in the end with, like, what, did you not think this through? I mean, it's a problem. If you didn't think this through, that's a problem. And if you did think this through and this is the conclusion you came to, that's also a problem. It's like, whichever way you cut it, it's not right.
And I don't know if this is like a legit thing, because it's something that I saw online, so obviously like take it with a grain of salt, but I did see somebody who had said that they knew how the original book in Korean ended, and that in the original book it's not like such an open ending, and that Haewon does actually like make a commitment to Eunseop. So if that's the case, which I don't know if that's the case because I haven't, it's based on a novel. If that's the case, then like, why make this baffling choice to just like have no answers and no resolution?
The ending does feel like it's been written by somebody else completely.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel coherent. It doesn't feel like it belongs in the same world.
Like, I feel like the natural ending for this show would have been that Haewon actually, okay, after she goes away, let's say she needed to go away, but she actually comes back to live there. And maybe, and you know, be with Eunseop and maybe be a music teacher
open a music school
in the village. Exactly, because they showed all of those moments where she was clearly, like, she was having these moments with people like the landlady, the kid, and like you saw her finding meaning in doing that, even in that like sort of humble, non-city, non-soul kind of way. So you could see her having a future there. So it felt like that would have been the natural conclusion.
Yeah, and it would have made so much more sense for her to be like, oh, actually, I was miserable because I was in Seoul, but it wasn't the teaching that I hated, so I'm going to come back to my hometown and teach here. And you always had that thread of, like, Jungwoo also being like, oh, it's actually valuable to come back to your hometown and live a good, ordinary life here with the people who love you. But instead, she's like, oh, well, I hated Seoul so much that I hated teaching, but actually don't hate teaching, so I'm just going to stay in Seoul. Like, what?
I I really loved like Jang-woo's just like his whole beginning to end. He's a really fantastic character, but like the fact that he got to say that really meaningful thing about like why he chose to come back. I mean, a Seoul university graduate, why would you come back to your no-name hometown? That's a valid question. But the way that he explains, you know, why it was important to him and how it kind of reminded me, of that last poem in You Who Forgot Poetry about these unremarkable moments that add up to a life. It reminded me of that, and that was very beautiful of them.
Yeah. Jang-woo's entire character was just so nice to have that character in the drama. We initially, I think people kept looking for what's his trajectory, how much is he contributing to the drama, and they were very disappointed that he didn't have a meteor role in it. But I think he served two purposes. The first is that acting as a juxtaposition to Yoon-sub, in that he is the accepted boy, brought up lovingly by his parents, sort of, loved by everybody in the town. But he has a very similar nature to Yoon-sub's. They are both shy. They both had childhood crushes on these girls that they couldn't confess, and nurtured those crushes for years. They were both good students. They kept out of trouble. They're both mild-mannered, mild-natured. They both want to help people. They can't turn people away. They are very similar boys. You could absolutely see why they would be friends. But they had very different lives in that Yoon-sub was treated as like a foundling by the entire town, even though he was loved so much by his adopted parents. And Jang-woo was just accepted by everybody as part of the community, an easy part of the community, and he never had to question his place in the community. Whereas you could see that Yoon-sub had to question his place in the community. So that the juxtaposition was a big thing. And the other thing was simply that he was such a charming character. I mean, it was just nice to have watch his arc happen.
Totally.
But I don't know what to say about this drama. It bewilders me from the moment okay, look, I mean, I wasn't too on board when the drama in the beginning, they suddenly went for like 4 episodes. They dove into Yoon-sub's repressed emotions and his rejection of Haewon for no good reason that I could see. And then they just did that for 4 episodes, and then these two got together and they started confessing their love to each other, but apparently the love wasn't very strong because a few episodes later Haewon just upped and left. Without a conversation, without any arguments, she just told him, I gotta go, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, it was like she's been saying for 3 episodes in her mind, like, please read my mind and ask me to stay, and then suddenly she's like, nice knowing ya. Thanks. I'm breaking up with you. See you later.
That reminded me of this part in Temperature of Love, which I think I compared this drama to early on, which is like one of my favorites, which a lot of people hate, by the way, because of the heroine. There's this So Hyunjin's character does the same thing. So she leaves Yang Sejong, but then when she comes back, and she asks him to take her back, he's like, he says to her, how can I trust that someone who left me once won't leave me again? And that makes him like, that's an actual conflict in their relationship. Like, how can I have that belief in you? Yeah, so you understand why I love this drama.
Yeah, especially for somebody who has such deep-seated emotionally, like, abandonment issues. Like, sorry, I shouldn't yell, but yeah.
Do yell. It's all, what do you call it? It's our emotions.
That's exactly it. They explored his issues for 4 episodes, right in the middle of Haewon's storyline. They suddenly plopped in Yoon-sub's issues, and I was like, fine, let's go with this. So the boy feels like everybody's going to leave him. This is clearly an arc that's going to be resolved with, him accepting that Haewon loves him. Oh my god.
Literally the worst thing that she could do to this boy, like, yeah, given his history, she knows
what his issues are. Yeah. And the other thing, okay, so I think one of our listeners, Rue, left this comment on our blog, and I love this. she called it his acceptance of Haewon's part-time
Her
love.
his quiet acceptance of her part-time love. That was a great line, by the way.
Love that.
Brilliant
exactly.
line. Yeah. It absolutely, completely sums it up, and it's like perfectly said. And yeah, that was absolutely on the nose.
Finally, before we move on from this, Boyoung, the one that we thought useless for majority of the drama, actually had a bit of a purpose.
She actually had a really good arc in the end.
Yeah, I really liked the conversation she had, the bus conversation that they had, and the follow-up conversation where, Haewon does...
When she took her home drunk, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked the conversations they had about forgiveness, about closeness, why you would forgive certain people, why you wouldn't, and degrees of...
And the nature of friendship.
How broken can it be? Can it is it ever too irreparable, or is it okay to have cracks in your friendships? And
like the conclusion was really
thought
interesting
that was nice.
there. Like the conclusion of what you just said is that is it repairable? And the conclusion that they came to, actually perhaps theirs wasn't repairable, but they could move on from it. Like they could clean it up and move on.
Yeah.
And that was I thought that was a really well done part, actually.
Yeah.
And now we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on to
us being converted by you last month. So
yes.
last Yak, which I think hasn't come out yet. Last Yak, you talked about the Chinese drama you were watching, and me with my problems of pressing play. I don't know how I just accidentally ended up watching this on I was on my phone. I was eating my dinner, Netflix. I was like, oh, what was that show that she was talking about? Oh, I can't remember its name. Oh, that's what it was. Find yourself. And then I put it on, and I just watched an episode while I ate, and then I was like, I think I'm into this. And then I watched the next 40 episodes over 5 days.
Just continuously texting us about how much she loved this show.
I think
day and night.
The first few episodes. This is also while I was sick, so it was it was very interesting. The first half of my illness was I think the maths made it 8 episodes a day until I finished it. I don't know how. I don't know how I was alive, but that's what happens when you're stuck in your room and you can't leave, and you just need something easy to watch.
Can sympathize with that.
And because it was really easy to watch as well. So pressing play is hard, but you just carried on. It was like I was numbing my way through it.
Netflix is just auto playing it for you, one by one after another. You don't have to press play. You just watch it like a zombie with your eyeballs propped open.
But it was also it was so quotable as well. It had so many quotable moments and so many things that I related to, because the heroine, she's a woman in her 30s facing the usual societal pressures that Asian women face. And you're just I relate to this so hard. And it's just very, very relatable. But no handsome young man saving me.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch all of it. I watched about 14 episodes, and I might go back. I'm not sure yet. But I did find the male lead kind of annoying and overbearing, to be honest. But I really love the heroine. The heroine she's just so great. She's so capable, but then she wears her heart on her sleeve. And then her relationship with her twin brother and her parents is best. And her mom and dad are just, I love them so much. They're so cute. And then her work friendships with her coworkers, and especially that one friend that she has is kind of her hubei, I guess. That is a really, and I think that character is probably going to end up having a romance with her friend that works in the office. I'm guessing it seems to be going that way. So that looks interesting and cute. And I don't know. I have issues with a male lead who's
too young. And
he's
immature.
too young as well. He's my sister's age, and
oh,
so
God. Yeah, that makes it a bit ugh.
Yeah, and my sister is a good 12 years younger than me, so that is, I just see her as a different generation. And because I think it's not just that she's my sister, but it's because I've lived my life having that age gap between us and understanding how different our experiences have been of growing up. I know without the shadow of a doubt that I would never be able to marry somebody that was that much younger than me. Maybe in like 15 years, but like at this point, no. I just know that like that's just me. And maybe it's just me. It's not everybody, but I
have a friend
can't.
who has 3 younger brothers, and that basically it does. I think your sort of your family or your social environment does shape the kind of what you find acceptable in a partner or not. Like with my friend, the idea of a man younger than her, she was like, no, never. I've got 3 younger brothers. No, not happening. So that was always like a big thing, like just a big no for her. Whereas, like, for example, I don't have that same issue, but I only have one younger brother who's like 11 years younger than me. So if that kind of age gap, I'd be like, no. But like a 3 or 4 year age gap, I'm like, my sister.
But this is a 10-year age gap.
Yeah, I know.
In the
but
drama,
the is, what's fun about the drama is that the drama actually it grabs those things, and like the generational difference. Like they had this conversation, they had made probably a lot later, they have this conversation where there is a group of them, and one of them, one of the other women in her 30s is like, when I was a kid, it'd be like getting down in the mud and playing, going down by the river, and she and Fanxing were like, yeah, that was our childhood, right? Like an analog childhood. And another one's like, we didn't even have electricity until we were like this age, and the other kids are like, what? The ones in their 20s and their early 20s are like, what? We've always had electricity. I don't believe you. It's not real. Or like the way they'd pass their time. I can't remember what the differences were, but it was like one of them was like a they'd play on their phones or something, whereas the older ones were like, that's not what we did to pass the time. So the fact that
for sure.
this is what Barma told us last time. She was like, everything that every reservation that you could possibly have, the drama grabbed it like by the collar and was just like, here, conflict, eat it. And it was really fun.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons I really liked, that they did the whole second lead romance thing really well. They actually used it to progress the first lead's relationship, because I don't think Fanxing would have given Yeonsung a real chance if she didn't have Looming waiting right, in the wings, waiting to kind of like come in and like give this relationship. So Looming is a guy who's slightly older than her, and he checks every box as far as,
yeah, exactly.
He's perfect as far as parental
candidate.
Approval, societal approval, everything. Yeah. So because she had him to try out a relationship with, and they were already great friends, that she realized that despite Yeonsung being much younger and all of the reservations she had about their age, their life experiences, even initially when they were dating, he was actually working in the same office, but she was superior, she was the boss, and she didn't like the power dynamic issues that created, so she wanted to keep it quiet in the office. All of those reservations, including how she earned way more than what he could earn right now, like just every sensible, practical, real world consideration that you would have, she had them. She heard stories about other mismatched couples as far as age is concerned and their tragic endings.
Yes.
She thought of everything.
How much did I hate that woman, Mrs. Worm?
The neighbor woman? Oh my god.
The busybody neighbor. Goodness, I hated her so much.
She is such a real world.
And that's why I hate her!
Oh yeah.
She exists.
That auntie is out there. Yep.
That's like half of the aunties.
And I have absolutely no doubt that everything she feared will rear its head up again. But thankfully, because she had a chance to have a relationship with Looming and see that the socially approved life is not the one that would make her happy, she could go back to Yeonsung, and I'm sure that would work now. Because all of the fears and considerations she had, they wouldn't stop her from being happy with him. Eventually. And also, to be fair, Yeonsung, as Anisa pointed out, his character is a bit overbearing, but he's overbearing in the way that he's a much younger man who's very handsome, very sought after, he's very confident about his own future, but he doesn't have a lot of life experience, but he's very conscious of the fact that Fan Sheng has a lot more life experience than he is. He's always conscious that she has lived more. She knows more.
It gives him some insecurity as well in that sense.
Yeah, it does give him
experience
insecurity.
difference makes him insecure, because usually what you often have in like Noona romance type romances is that the younger guy tends not to have problems, except that he can't get her to agree.
They have no insecurities whatsoever.
Whereas in this, he actually gets to have insecurities as well. Like, he's not a perfect hero, and he's like, usually in the other ones they make it so that you're just like, you as a viewer are like yelling at the heroine saying, just accept him, like, why won't you, because he's absolutely perfect, blah blah blah.
Because he's not immature at all, these characters. Yeah, whereas
Right.
Hyun-sung is immature. You can see his immaturity.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't get to the points where they do address all of that, so I'm still not like 100% invested, maybe. But I
want to say one thing, but I don't know if it will spoil it for you.
But it's not one of those dramas.
Okay, no, it's not a huge spoiler.
Yeah, I don't mind. In this case, it's fine.
So they have a breakup, which I feel is one of the rites of passage of this kind of relationship. But I also feel that first breakup is always really necessary, because they break up for reasons that really matter. And then while they're broken up, they sort of reflect on, they can figure out what their mistakes were, and they grow in that time, so that by the time they do get together properly, they've actually learned enough and they've grown enough that they are now mature enough to have that relationship, which they wouldn't have been able to without the breakup. Like, the breakup is a really important step in their relationship. It's not the end, it's a part of the process.
I really like that breakup scene, because
that was good.
The build up for it was there. You could see it throughout their relationship, and it was like
all of the tensions
realistic.
came to a head.
All of the tensions.
Yeah.
Okay, because the tensions were starting to make me feel really uncomfortable. At the point where I'm at, where she like just rearranged his whole apartment without asking him anything, and then like returned the gift that he gave her, I was just like, I'm feeling stressed out right now.
Returning of the gift thing. My God, that was...
That also comes back. See, it's basically exactly like P said. Everything comes back, and like, it doesn't leave things unfinished. Like, you will get an answer. It's not going to be like When the Weather is Fine.
All right. Well, maybe I will go back to it then.
There are some really problematic things which we can't talk about now until you've watched it. But we
can't talk about it. But
later.
It's mostly to do with secondary characters.
Yeah.
So I don't think. I mean, that's something that you can like skip over.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But I don't want to talk about it until Eunice has watched it.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. What's next, guys? So next on our list, Sai's already watched and talked about this. Anissa, you want to talk about 365?
Yeah, so I just started 365 Repeat the Year. I only watched the first 2 episodes, which is basically the first hour. I don't really know what's going on yet, but I'm enjoying myself. And I just want to say, like, I'm really glad that Lee Jun-hyuk is back. And he's not being dismembered by anybody. And he's like smiling and happy. I'm just really glad to see him in a lead role. He's been doing some really interesting stuff. Like, his character in Forest of Secrets was very well done, very funny, very like just one of the best villains I've seen. But it's really nice to see him in a lead role again. So I'm excited for this. And I do like how the brightness and liveliness of his character kind of is a good foil for Namjian's character, which is much darker. And I think it's also a really interesting character for her, because she tends to play these really kind of light, cheerful, bright kind of characters usually, like in Shopping King Louie and that lawyer drama that she did with Ji Chang-wook that I can't remember the name of. But she actually has a pretty dark energy in this, like even before whatever happens to her that kind of makes her life very sad in the beginning of the drama. Like, she already writes like a murder webcomic, so clearly like there's some darkness in her soul. So yeah, I like that. I like this, and it's intriguing so far. The premise is intriguing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be back with more thoughts next month.
I'm also, I think I'm on the 3rd episode right now. Yeah, I'm just going to reserve my opinion. I'm enjoying it a lot. I don't have a whole lot more to say right now, but this seems like one of those dramas where I can talk a lot about it after I've binge watched, because whatever speculations I have right now, they all feel very spoilery. So yeah, that's about it. I'm liking it a lot. I'm really glad I started it. And yeah.
So we'll reconvene next month.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sounds good.
Okay, and our final drama for discussion this month is Hospital Playlist. Okay, I have a question. Is it just me, or is the Ikjun and Songhwa quote-unquote romance feeling a bit forced? I mean, they are just such good friends.
So I haven't seen any romance yet. I'm only at like the middle of episode 6.
I haven't seen any either, but it's just the implication of it. For a couple of episodes now. I've watched episode 7. I haven't watched this week's yet. Is it out? It should be out by now.
It's out. I think it'll be. Yeah. It was out today. But I was like thinking that something must have happened in episode 7 and I didn't watch it. So
No. Nothing of the sort. It's just they're good friends. That's it. They have no tension between them. There is no awkward awareness. There is way more tension between our like wannabe monk doctor's mom and her friend, her straight-faced friend. There's like so much chemistry there. I really want these two to get together. I'm like way more rooting for mom and her friend than I am for Ikjun and Songhwa. I just want Ikjun and Songhwa to stay good friends like they already are. Don't force a romance when it's not.
Yeah, it would be an interesting plot twist for them to like both find out that they liked each other back then and then be like, yeah, I'm over it. Like, let's just be friends. But I don't think that's what they're going to do.
Most likely not. And to be fair, the romantic inside me would totally enjoy having these two be together. But the thing is that this is one of those rare dramas where you don't tune in for the plot. You're not tuning in for where is this story going. You're tuning in because you like the characters. You miss the characters. You're sort of switching on the episode to sort of check in with the characters. How are they doing today? What's been up with them? You're catching up with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even care where this story is going. I just want to know how their day went. And that's exactly the kind of drama this is.
Yeah. No, I agree. To be honest, like, initially, I thought that Junwan, who is Jung Kang-ho's character, and I thought him and Songhwa had chemistry.
Yeah, I thought
and
that
I
too.
still kind of feel the chemistry, and I think this just like the two actors really have chemistry. But now he has the storyline with Iksun, so like that isn't happening.
Cute.
And it is cute, but I wish we got to actually like see them together because they're adorable. Like, I want to actually see them more. I mean, we got a little bit more in episode 6. Maybe there's more in 7, but like Jung Kang-ho being like a gruff grumpy person most of the time, and then just like turning into this like corny marshmallow whenever he talks to her on the phone is just so cute.
And that pigeon thing has to be like the corniest thing ever.
Yeah, I don't get that.
No, you have to watch episode 7. I was dying. There's a scene between Ikjun and Junwan. They are you know how Ikjun is really focused, really thinks that his sister has a crush on this other doctor, friend of hers. Okay, I can't go more into it, but it's like a hilarious scene.
I mean, every time he like calls that other doctor brother-in-law, I'm just dying. I'm just like, and Junwan's there, and he's like boiling with anger, but he can't say anything. Yeah, it's those kind of details, you know, or like the fact that Junwan and Songhwa like just eat all the food before the rest of them can even start eating, and it's like this running joke that like continuously. I love that kind of stuff. The other thing that I wanted to mention is like, you know, the eyeshadow doctor with the short bob, the one who initially was like being all hateful towards Seokhyung and and she was like super judgmental of everybody, so I didn't really like her. But then like when I found out that her and Gyo, the one who's in love with the guy who wants to be a priest,
they're both army.
Yeah, they're both army. No, when I found out that they were actually best friends, it made me like both of them more because they're so different. And individually, I didn't like either one of them that much. There were certain things that I was just like, but then like finding out that they were friends was like so heartwarming. And I was like, oh, this friendship is actually so cute. And so now I'm like rooting for both of them. So we'll see where that goes. But I like them.
I hope they both get their doctors. Because also, I'm at the whole Jungwon and Gyeowul thing. I'm rooting for them, but I also kind of want Jungwon to get what he wants, and he wants to go into the church so badly. It's something that he really feels like he has to do. I don't think it's right when somebody has like fixated on a goal like that, and he really feels that it's his calling to kind of like push him to live in normal society against his wishes.
Yeah. No, and when I say I'm rooting for Gyeol as well, like I don't mean that I'm rooting for her
to
I
get
understand.
That relationship. I totally understand.
As a person.
I know that. I'm just talking about the various romantic pairings, and inevitably in these stories, romantic pairings are something that you would start talking about. And on the one hand, I find it adorable that Gyeol's crush on him is so... It changes her completely. Like usually she's so no nonsense and focused on stuff, but like ever since she developed a crush on him, it just
also those like information gathering meetings that they have with that one doctor that went to school with them is hilarious. I love that doctor, the one who like tells them all the gossip. He's really funny.
Yeah. So that, and also, as you said, I think it was Mina, right? The doctor who initially didn't really get along with Sukhyung.
Yeah, Mina. That's right.
So I kind of like Mina's crush on Sukhyung as well.
That I actually, I think that would be good for each other if he is able to fall out of love with Songhwa, and I don't know if he's still in love with her, but
he's in love with Songhwa, and they don't act like that at all. But the problem is, I don't know if it's a problem so much. I don't know what Mina's age is, but she seems very young. Whereas,
well, she's a third-year resident, so that means that she's probably around 27. No, maybe 25 or 26.
But she was working in a lab before she moved to medicine, so maybe she's actually older.
Maybe.
So it's actually possible. Maybe if she's in her early 30s, then I guess the age gap isn't that huge. Because the only thing is that in these situations, in hospital situations, falling in love with the doctor you admire while you're working beside him is not just a trope, it's a fact. It happens really frequently. So for both of these residents to sort of get with their doctors would be a bit unrealistic. So I'm expecting one or the other to kind of not work out. Just statistically, it seems unlikely. Yeah. Which is why I'm kind of hoping that Mina does get her doctor.
Yeah, that would be the relationship that I would want to see happen. And you're right. I don't think that Sukhyung still is in love with Songhwa, but he really highly values her opinion, and he's very close to her, and they're really good friends. So that's probably something that Mina is going to have to deal with at some point. Yeah.
Deal with, yeah. Okay. But have you noticed that both the men who were in love with in college, they both went off and got married and then got divorced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the writers just don't have a lot of original things to do when it comes to romance. I feel like romance tends to be their weakest. Like this writer and director in most of their projects, everything else tends to be incredible. The romance sometimes is weaker, in my opinion.
No. Are you insane? What? After Reply 1997? How could you?
But that was only one case. Did you watch 94 or 98?
I haven't watched it. I haven't watched either of the other replies.
I mean, I feel like
I've only watched
with both 94 and 98, people were like ready to draw blood because they were so angry about like where the romantic pairing went. And like, even though with 97, the main romance was really good and really satisfying, like I did not love the whole who's the husband, let's guess.
Oh,
God,
like
especially
all of that. With the elder brother. He was far too old for
it. Was too much.
He was dating a schoolgirl. What is...
Yeah, so I feel like with them it's kind of hit or miss sometimes with the romance, whereas like they always like hit it out of the park with like family relationships and work relationships and friendships and the slice of life stuff and like all like the small tragedies and triumphs of daily life and all of that. Like they do so well, better than the romance.
Agreed, totally. It's just such a happy drama to watch.
Yeah. The doctors are still a little bit too perfect, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Well, they are the protagonists, so if you consider that the story may be being told from their perspective, they would think that they are perfect.
But like, it's like every doctor, like the whole system is, it's like the medical system is the protagonist and it's just like great and amazing and like even the poor people can get care because you have this miraculous daddy long legs program and there's no problems and there's no issues with like undocumented people not being able to get health care. It's just, doctors never make any mistakes, and if they do, like it's a resident and their supervising doctor is like right there to fix the problem and save the it's just, I don't know, it's a little too much sometimes.
Yeah. And the doctors are always at hand, giving up their weekend camping trips to run back to check on the patients.
And also, like, the patients are always, like, stupid.
So grateful.
A lot of times. They're ungrateful. They're dumb. They have, like, wrong information that they found on the internet. They don't know their bodies as well as the doctor does. And, like, that really irritates me a lot. Because it's usually the opposite. Yeah, it is kind of triggering.
Yeah.
But anyway, I talked about this before, so I don't want to harp on it too much.
No, I understand. But, like, having seen something of my dad's practice, having watched him talk to his patients, like, as a kid, I would sometimes, because my dad had a private practice in our house, interact with his patients. And Anisa, it's a fact that most people are really dumb when it comes to medicine, and that's okay because that's not a field of expertise that everybody needs to be ace at. The doctors get 10 years or more of like just medical learning. People can ask really dumb questions, and that's okay. That should be okay. You should be able to ask dumb questions of your doctors, and your doctor should be able to answer that patiently without patronizing you. So in most of the situations in this drama, I do get the sense that that is what they're doing, that the patients, they are suddenly facing an emergency, a medical situation, not something that's, not a medical condition that they've been suffering for years, but a sudden medical condition, and they don't have any information. So they're asking questions that sound really daft, and the doctors are answering, and depending on which doctor they are filming the case of the week with, some are answering with patience and understanding, and others are answering brusquely and not very.
That's true, and I agree with you that, like, in this case, the doctor is the expert, and so you go to the expert because the expert has more knowledge than you, and you're hoping that the expert will be able to help you. And in a lot of cases, and I would say, like, probably a majority of the cases, the doctor does have a lot more information than you, and they can help you, and you need their help, right? But then, like, there are also cases where they can be egregiously wrong. And that they like
telling them the symptoms and they don't believe you.
Yeah, and that's like a documented thing that happens, and it especially happens to like women are, seen as being like able to endure more pain. Ethnic minorities are, like a lot of times not believed when they say that they're in pain. So like
also we don't know our own symptoms. We're just imagining it.
Right.
It's
like if they had at least had one case like that, like how many in every hour-and-a-half long episode we see like so many patients, even if they had one case like that, and instead like they had that one time where there was that doctor who wanted to do the surgery in a particular way, and they're like, oh no, he doesn't know what he's doing, but then it turns out he knows what he's doing, it's all fine, he's an expert too. So like, it's not that I want them all to be terrible people. Obviously I love the protagonists and I want them to, I like them. They're great. I like that they're good doctors. It makes me happy. But, like, at least one of their colleagues, like, they couldn't even put a single colleague in there who has that, like, I'm a surgeon, so I'm God mentality, which, like, we definitely know a lot of surgeons kind of have that, So,
yeah, absolutely.
I just find that a little unrealistic.
All of their surgeries have been a success till now. Like, they have never do their surgeries go wrong.
Yeah, and that's just not realistic.
It's not. But I did. It's in episode 7. So one of the is it a resident? I think it's a resident. It's one of the higher up ones. Has something bad happen at home. So they're dealing with a sort of patient's family, calling them up and being really rude to them. And then, the daughter of the man calls him up and really apologizes. And she's like, I'm so sorry, my father's so distressed about my mom's condition. And this guy's listening to her and instead of being sympathetic, because obviously it's a really bad situation, he snaps at her. And the other residents are looking at him because that's an uncharacteristic thing to do, and also not what at least not what this hospital environment promotes. But that's okay. But we also know why he's snapping. We know that he has this horrible thing happen at home. So we know that this is not what he does on a daily basis. Whereas I've been to hospitals where nurses and the staff have acted really rudely.
And you can tell that that's just their regular routine
behavior,
and that's just how they do it. Yeah.
They don't really see you as individuals anymore. You're just like one more, you're like a number on a chart. It's not. So yeah, this is not that story. This is a halcyon version of a hospital where people are all good-hearted. They're all trying their best, and some people might be trying a little less than their best, but by the end of the drama, they'll also be trying their very best.
Yeah. So, that's fine. There's a reason why I don't watch medical dramas, because I have a lot of personal trauma associated with bad doctors. So I knew that going in. It's okay. I'm enjoying it for the most part. But we'll keep watching.
We'll keep watching. Yeah, definitely. This is not a drama I can stop watching. But I'm starting Prison Playbook. I missed it when it aired, but I've heard tons of good things about it. And I think, it just feels wrong to not have watched it at this point. So
yeah, no, it's definitely on my list. I think it came out when I was in the middle of exams or something, or papers.
Yeah,
so
I think 2018. So
yeah, that was the end of my first semester of grad school, and I was dying.
Fun.
Yeah, I think I wrote 50 pages in 2 weeks for my final papers that semester.
That's a lot of pages, man.
It was too much. All right, well,
watch lots of dramas now, please. Make up for it.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna get back into it now.
Okay, so wrapping up this episode, guys, you can find us on Twitter at Dramas Overflow, on Instagram at dramasoverflowers_podcast. You can email us at dramasoverflowers@gmail.com. Guys, where can everybody find you on the socials? On the socials? What am I? What?
How old are you? 22?
Seriously. Spend too much time online. You can find me on Twitter at Anisa Khalifa _.
And you can find me at Not Now Sire, and I will never call anything lit.
Thanks for that announcement. And you can find our blog at dramasoverflowers.net.
Yeah, and you can also find me on Twitter, Anisa.
Oh, sorry.
At Festa Fasta.
Sorry, it's because you did the Twitter before. Then I was like, oh, she already did Twitter in my mind.
When you find one of us, you find all of us, right?
You actually kind of do. You just have to follow the breadcrumbs.
Exactly.
So that's it, guys. See you in the next episode. See you on the next episode. In the next episode? Right?
See you next time.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.